Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E, and we have a special guest. She's an author, educator, parent. Welcome to the show, Barbara Ann Mojica.
Thank you, Wise, for inviting me today.
Thank you for coming on. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Having a little rain shower right now, but it was a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see you're in Hudson Valley.
Yeah, I'm in upstate New York and I'm a little bit south of Albany.
Yeah. I'm originally a city boy. I'm from Brooklyn, but I lived out. I used to live outside of Albany in Troy, New York.
I was born in the city. I was born in Brooklyn, actually.
See, welcome. I'm a fellow Brooklynite. Hey. So, Barbara, okay, you have something. It's something very unique. You use history to educate our youth. Can you explain that?
Okay, well, I was a student of history in college. I always loved history as a young kid. I was always interested in people and having not had the ability to do much traveling. My parents didn't have a lot of resources, so we weren't able to travel and we didn't even have a car. But I was always interested in visiting all kinds of people and places and learning more about the outside world. So I became interested in history, but I really didn't develop any kind of ambition to use history in my life until I was in high school. I had a wonderful teacher who was very inspiring and she made history come alive. So when I started studying history with her, I was really, really enthused. And I said, gee, I wish I could continue this education. And she took me aside and told me I really ought to go to college. And that wasn't really in my future. I really didn't have a lot of resources, and my parents certainly couldn't afford it. So she said, well, just apply yourself. And I did. So I applied myself. I wound up graduating high school with honors. I was able to get into a college that offered a public education. So there I was. So I majored in history. So I majored in history. I got a graduate degree in history. And when I got out of school, I still loved my history, but I was not that interested in working on the academic side of history. So I said, I love doing research, but I am more of a people person. So I decided I think I'll go into teaching. So I went into teaching. But as it wound out up, I wound up teaching elementary school, and I didn't have a lot of opportunity to teach history because at that time in elementary school, it wasn't a big part of the curriculum. So it kind of was on the back shelf for a while. And as the years went by, I switched from my elementary ed into special ed. I became aware that children's needs weren't being met and I wanted to learn more about meeting the needs of children who weren't learning in the general population. So I went back to school. I took a degree in special education, and I wound up the second part of my career doing that. So I worked with children with very, very intense needs like Down syndrome, autism, uh, physical disabilities, and so on. So the second half was doing that, and I eventually became a principal and a school administrator in special education. So all of that, I have a long career, And when I finally decided to retire from teaching, I decided I wanted to combine my two passions, so I began writing a series of children's books, and I wanted to make learning about history fun. I also wanted to develop the thinking skills, critical thinking skills of children, which I think are not being taught well in the schools today. So that's the mission that I'm on now. I write children's books and I devote myself to finding resources for parents, for teachers, and children. And my intention is to develop the thinking skills of all of the population and to provide some of the tools that they'll need in order to do this critical thinking.
Okay. And what are some of the ways parents can help their children become critical thinkers?
Well, that's a pretty tall definition, but there are lots of very simple steps that parents can take. So, first of all, what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is being able to focus on a problem, being able to analyze what is going on, and being able to interpret events in many different ways. So, in school today, children are taught largely what to think, but they're not really being taught how to think. So, they need to be able to look at a person or look at an event or an issue, and within that, analyze what else is going on? Who are the people involved? What are they connected with? What else is going on in their worlds? In other words, who are the people that are influencing them, or what are the events that are influencing them? And then how are these things being communicated? The way that history was communicated 100 years ago is very different from the way we communicate today. So, in looking at history, we sometimes look at artifacts, we sometimes look at diaries, we look at letters, but today we don't have a lot of those resources. We have instant communication with social media and the internet. So the way of communicating has changed tremendously. And parents need to go back to teaching children what I call creative life skills, which kind of go along with critical thinking. So, some of those skills that parents can nurture and teach are number one, curiosity. We need to encourage children to use their natural inquisitiveness. So when children ask questions, we have to be prepared to answer them. We have to be able to give them the answers. The who, the what, the when, the where, the why questions are so important to children developing their future skills. And a lot of times we're busy and we kind of squash the questions or not now, later. We have to encourage children to ask those I wonder about questions, and we can take them into the community and we can encourage that. When we see something like an old building, oh, I wonder who lived there. I wonder what that person wore. I wonder what kind of foods that person ate. Give them leading questions about what's going on around them. If there's a problem in the community, you see a rundown abandoned building, ask the child what they think about that. Not, just letting things go. Other kinds of skills that we need to encourage in children are finishing tasks. A lot of times, children pick up something and they let it go. They don't finish it. Or we ask them to do something and they don't finish. Oh, make your bed, because they go out, they leave the bed unmade. So a lot of parents get tired of nagging the child and they just give up. But we have to encourage children to finish a task that they start. Uh, in the same vein, teaching children to find their own solutions to problems. So ask them, how would you solve this problem? What are the different ways you could solve the problem? Teaching children to have kind of a uh, boldness to try new things and to be inquisitive and get their minds interested in something that maybe we would never have thought about. If they see something, they should have the encouragement to pursue it. They might succeed, they might fail, but again, that's part of learning life skills. This to be an example with children with learning new things. The parents have to show children that they don't always succeed in everything either, that it's okay to fail sometimes. We don't always get what we want, and we have to learn that that's a part of life. So giving them routines, giving them responsibilities, and expecting them to carry out the responsibilities, teaching them to have compassion and kindness toward other people. Again, this is a big thing that a lot of schools say they are encouraging this in their curriculum, but they are encouraging being compassionate in very structured ways, like giving them arbitrary situations. Parents should teach children to always have empathy for other people and to have empathy and compassion for people who don't necessarily think the way they do. Don't have to agree with them, but you should have an open mind to be look at different opinions. And children see that on social media, but again, sometimes today we're given one side of the story, and social media has its algorithms and presents us certain.
Yeah, they show us what they want us to see.
Exactly.
Uh,
They present a certain point of view and
yeah,
they tend to repeat that certain point of view. So if the child isn't encouraged to go out and explore other avenues, they'll always see the same thing. And they'll be, getting into this kind of black and white or egocentric
yeah, no,
viewpoint when they see social media. And of course, another really important thing that we can teach them is to learn the difference between fact and opinion.
yeah,
I have a couple of videos on that. Those are some of my teaching videos. Uh, Child has to learn that an opinion is something that someone believes, but it may or may not be true. A fact is something that we can prove to be true. And of course, giving them simple examples like a horse has four legs, but dogs are better than cats. That's an opinion. A horse has four legs. That's a fact. And encouraging them to look for that when they are watching the news or reading an article, having them look out for those kinds of things, not to be judgmental, not to get into this kind of group
yeah, and it's
social
ridiculous.
think.
I really don't watch news because they'll just feed you what they want you to, and it's all of these news media outlets where they just want you. They're gonna feed you what they want you to see and want to hear, and so that's why me as a podcaster, I do what I do because I'm not trying to feed anything, any nonsense or anything that's going to help disrupt. I'm more of a having people come on like yourself, explain things and talk about what what you're working on and just positive stuff. Just trying to improve, just basically try to help improve the world because there's so much negative stuff right now. We're so divided as a country, and it's ridiculous. And and it's funny because I've speak to plenty of people from all over the country, all over the world, and at the core of it all, we're all, yes, we have our differences and all, but at the core, we all want the same thing. We all want happiness. We all want better for our kids and better for our grandchildren, and just to basically live life how we want to live it. And so to start implementing in our kids now, showing them that hey, it's okay for you to have your own opinion, and it's fine. No one's gonna punish you for that. And so to be able to teach our kids that hey, you can be yourself. It's great. Think for yourself and be able to decide what you want out of your life. And so how do you take that? How do you use history to show them that?
Well, what I do when I talk to children about history, I explain to them, most of them will notice the word story. So they'll say, well, history is somebody's story. And that's part of it. But the word history really comes from the Greek, which means to seek or to inquire, to look into yourself. And what we are doing with history is we're all wrapped up in history. For instance, I I tell children that the moment they are born, they become a character in history because each of us is part of a bigger picture. We are all part of families, and families all have histories. So our family has a history. We have the people who were born before us, like our grandparents and our great grandparents. We have those who are a part of our family now that we're living with today. And then we have those people who will come after us in our family, who will become part of our future. So history is more evolutionary than revolutionary. The people that say, well, history is a bunch of important events and dates and times, it is really an evolution, and we are all a part of that evolution. So we have to know where we came from in order to understand where we are today, and then to forge some kind of path to living a better life in the future. So here we are in history today in our families, but we're also part of a community. And what are communities? Communities are groups of people, groups of families, as you will, who are also wrapped in memories and who come together for specific reasons, whether it be economic reasons or cultural reasons or something that they have in common or want to achieve as a group. And they are all wrapped in a series of memories too. And then, of course, when you extend that out to the world is just a larger community with people who are together. They share, some of them share a common culture, some of them share likenesses as well as differences. But we are all part of this kind of collective memory. So that's the way I explain it to children, and that we all have our our part to play and our future as engaged citizens, because we have a part to play in our community and in the larger world, we are able, hopefully, to come up with some better solutions to avoid some of the mistakes we made in the past, but also to use the past as a, an example of role models and opportunities, some of which worked, some of which didn't work. But history gives us kind of a legacy. It gives us a framework, a shared past, as if you will. It, and it gives us documents, artifacts, images, examples of what we can use to teach ourselves what it is that got us to today, what mistakes we made, what we can possibly do to create better solutions for tomorrow.
Okay. All right. So you said you have a children's series. What's the name of it?
Well, the name of the series is Little Miss History Travels 2. And the reason it's called Little Miss History is because I use a cartoon like character as a narrator who takes the children along on the historical adventures. And the character is based on a younger version of myself. My illustrator, my books are picture books, but they're not traditional picture books. They are books that are done with multimedia. So I use actual photographs of the places that I visit. There are 14 books in the series now. I'm working on another one. And the photographs are current photographs of the places, but also there are hand drawn portraits of some of the people who are mentioned in the books. And there is also, of course, the cartoon character who narrates. So the character, Little Miss History, is dressed kind of as a park ranger, hiker, explorer. I used to love hiking and I loved, again, visiting the outdoors. So that's the way she's dressed. She wears pigtails because that's the way I used to look as a teenager when I explored. She has rose colored glasses because she has an optimistic viewpoint of the world. And she wears these huge hiking boots, and they're kind of in memory of my father, who had very big feet. So she's kind of a composite of my early life. But she's a fun character who experiences the emotions of the journey. So sometimes she's very happy, sometimes she's very sad, sometimes she's being inquisitive, sometimes she's being funny, sometimes she's being very serious. And that's the way the series goes. So I use iconic places sometimes, like the Statue of Liberty or Mount Rushmore. These are very familiar to most people. I also use outdoor places like national parks such as Mount Rushmore and the Sequoia National Park. Some of my books go back to prehistory, like I have a book on the La Brea tar pits, and in that one we go back as far as 40,000 years and we explore an actual archaeological site. So children experience the way scientists work. Uh, they see some of the reconstructed fossils. They see the kind of plants that were growing in prehistoric times. I have a book on the North Pole. So in that book, we talk about the tundra, we talk about the weather in the Arctic, we talk about the animals that live there, the climate, how it's different from other parts of the world. We talk about the different countries, the 8 countries that claim territory in the Arctic. And we talk about the early explorers, some of whom might be well known, like Admiral Perry, but also those who are not so well, like Matthew Henson, the first truly African American explorer. And he accompanied Perry on most of his adventures, and he was not very much known or even acknowledged until recently. So I make it a point in my books to point out some characters in history who have been overlooked or forgotten, like Alonzo Swan, who was one of the heroes on the Intrepid battleship during World War II, or the Native Americans like the Lakota Sioux, who really owned the territory around Mount Rushmore. We had given it to the Lakota Sioux and then we took it back. So we talk in that book about Native American rights, and we talk about how the Native Americans are now building their own monument nearby Mount Rushmore. We talk about what the children think about that. Should we have one monument? Should we have two? How should we honor them? So I use a lot of interactive approaches and questioning in the books because, again, I want children to develop those critical thinking skills.
Oh, okay. So, as an author, what are some of the perils that the publishing world is facing today?
Oh, the publishing world is very, very complex today. There are only 4 or 5 major publishing companies left, and those companies are geared toward very specific interests. So if you are an author today, unless you fill one of their niches, you are going to find it very difficult to work with one of these 4 publishers. Most children's book authors today are writing either independently or they're using this kind of hybrid publishers that do some of the work for them. I publish with a small company, Eugenics Studios, because my illustrator slash husband also owned a publishing company. He's been an artist since kindergarten and has also done some of his own publishing with comic books and poetry and other things. So he started a publishing company in the 90s, and we publish my children's books with that publishing company as well. So I am technically not an indie publisher. I'm publishing with a small publishing company, but like most indie authors, I am pretty much doing everything myself. So, but because my books are nonfiction, I do the research, I do the writing. I have a group of beta readers who do some of the editing with me. He does the illustration. He also does the layout and setting up the publishing. So we virtually do everything except the physical printing of the books.
Yep, I feel you on that because we actually self-published my nephew's second book, and well, he has self-published 2 books, but the second one we actually invested in getting someone to edit the book for us and help us design the cover for it and all that, and we self-published it, and it's not easy because again you have to market. Like if you don't have one of those big houses like you were talking about, you have to market yourself. You have to do all the work to help get that book out to everyone. So yeah, it's not an easy task.
No, it isn't. And even if you are with a larger publishing company, they don't do as much for their authors. Most of the people with a larger publishing company have agents who do some of the work for them, because the large publishing houses they will have a few events that they want you to go to during the year. It's a little bit more convenient because they will take care of sending the books to an event and making sure that they get there. If you are self-published, or if you are with a smaller publishing house, you may have to bring the
Bring.
books
Yeah.
to events yourself. But they actually don't do what people think. Oh, I'm with a large house, they're going to do everything. They really do a minimum of the marketing today. You still have to do all of the social media and the posting and all of that kind of thing. So you really have to know how to design. You have to have a good book cover. You have to know how to find the categories to put your book into.
Yeah.
You have to know how to research keywords that are going to effectively gain the attention of people, because it's no good to have a book online if you don't have the ability to gain readers to find it.
Yeah.
So all of that is something you have to do. Learn how to write a good book description. It's just a multiple of skills that you kind of learn as you go. But one thing that I highly recommend to authors is to see other authors as friends rather than competitors, because you can learn an awful lot from fellow authors, especially those who are in your same genre or niche, and they really do a lot to help each other out. So think of authors as, a network of support rather than a competitor.
Oh no, it's similar to what the podcast community is. We're not. I
Yes,
don't. I don't.
yes.
I don't compete with my brothers and sisters in the podcast community. That the networking that I do with them is amazing. It 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 to me. I just came back about a week and a half. I was in Orlando for Podfest, which is a big convention for podcasters, and it was my first time there, and it was a great experience. I learned a lot. There was actually a few small publishing companies there, and we took my nephew's book down there and gave it to people. We got their opinions. We got a lot of feedback, and that just helped us come back. When we came back, he redesigned the cover and did some tweaked it a little bit, and it was because we went and networked with people, and they were more than helpful. They were more than happy to help us, and we were grateful for that. We appreciate that they would actually sit down with us and take the time to read the book and and say, hey, this is what we like about the book, but you can tweak this or you can tweak that. And like I said, we took that and we ran with it. We came back home. He changed the cover on it, and we're working on how we're marketing it now compared to when we published it in January. And it was just being able to go down and network with people. That was the main reason for us going, is because we wanted to connect with people. We wanted to build our community. And without a community, which is that's in anything you do, you should build a community, because those are the people that are going to be there to support you and help you through this journey.
And it is a journey, it's a process, and you learn more. Now, I've up to 14 books, and I've learned so much since I started. When I first started, I knew very little about marketing. I knew very little about social media. I knew next to nothing about the technical skills, and that's probably my most difficult area, is learning all of the kind of tech that goes along with it, which
Yeah,
is,
because
of course, is another thing that's constantly evolving. So as soon as you learn one thing, something
something
else
else come out.
comes
Yeah,
along and replaces it.
yeah, it's crazy because I've heard of Descript for such a long time, right? And my friend sent me a link to try it out, and what it does is it takes my audio files and it transcribes it, but at the same time, I can edit things out of it, and it edits it in in the audio as well. So I'm like, man, this is, and it's been around. It's been around for a minute now, and but for me, it's like new. It was something like, wow, this is something amazing. Okay, but I'm sure eventually down the road there's going to be something that's going to supplant that, and so
Sure.
it's just, it's just everything's constantly evolving, and me personally, I'm also growing and evolving as because I've taught myself in the last 2 years a lot of. I've learned how to edit podcasts, learn how to edit videos. I, like you learned, I had to learn marketing. I had to learn uh, how to maneuver through social media and all these other things. And it's a process. And but to me, it's not hard work. It's work. It's a lot of work. Don't get it. Don't let me get it twisted. It is a lot of work. But when you find something that you enjoy doing so much, it just seems to just everything seems to just fall in place when.
You have to have a passion for doing it. If you don't have a real passion for writing, or podcasting, whatever the endeavor happens to be at the moment, you won't be successful at it because you're writers who are in writing to make money. That's almost an impossible dream. Very, very few writers can support themselves on just writing their books.
Yeah.
So you have to have that passion, that it's something that you're doing to achieve some inside need, and in my case it's helping children, using what I've learned throughout all the years that I've worked with them, and I've worked with parents and I've worked with teachers. So I'm just trying to pull all of the things that I've learned and hopefully share something that they can use in their own lives.
All right. Okay. Barbara, this has been great. I now it's part of the show where you get to plug away and let everybody know where they can find your books, where they can find you, everything.
Well, the best place to find me is at my website, and from my website, you can get to any of my other resources. So the website is simply uh, www.littlemisshistory.com. From there, I have my YouTube channel. So you just click on YouTube and you can get to my channel. I have on there my teaching videos, trivia videos, history videos for kids, by kids. I have travel videos. I have tips for authors, and all kinds of things on citizenship, critical thinking, and so on. I have a blog, and on my blog, I review books for all ages of the family. So I review everything from preschool to young adult. I also write articles and provide tips and tricks for parents and teachers and children. I have a Pinterest board where I combine and collate my resources. So if you're looking for something quick, like a book list on a particular subject for a particular age, or you're looking for a YouTube video or an author tip, you can find that on my Pinterest board. And I have my social media on there too. So I have my LinkedIn, my Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So by going to the website, you can click on any of those, get any of the resources that you're interested in, and there's also a contact. You can just email me directly from the contact form.
All right. Thank you so much. But don't leave just yet. We're gonna talk a little bit after. So now it is time for shout out. Big shout out to my real wise fan, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Love you, baby. Big shout out to Barbara Ann Mojica for coming through and sharing history with us. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. And you know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at wise_b_blunt, Instagram at wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.